If you've ever been curious to know how to turn content creation into a profitable living, stay tuned. Welcome back to Real Talk. I'm your host, Carlos Gil. On this next segment, I have an opportunity to sit down and interview a social media maven with over 500,000 followers, and her last name rhymes with Peachy. Yes, I'm speaking about none other than Sara Dietschy. Sara, welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
It is great to have you. I love your work. We have a lot of mutual colleagues out there.
Yes.
I see you in like
on the Twitter sphere.
The Twitter sphere,
it's so
Instagram.
Good. Twitter is my LinkedIn.
It is?
You know?
Okay, maybe speak to that.
Yeah. Well, in terms of relationships on YouTube or the Instagram world, the creative world in general, it's such a social environment, and the relationships you build, I think, are more casual than people think. So I might get like a like or a mention from someone, and I'll check out their profile and like, oh, they do similar things, and it's a very like relationally driven platform, and I think it's one of the only social media platforms out there that's still social, and so that's why I love it.
Wholeheartedly agree. You know, you mentioned the word relationship, so little known fact about me, I used to work at LinkedIn. LinkedIn's motto is relationships matter. So
yes.
like
I'm so sorry that I said Twitter.
Okay, like,
Twitter is my LinkedIn.
I'm OG social media. Like I started in 2008. It was all about LinkedIn. I was growing a business, and I saw LinkedIn as really the place where if you want to connect with professionals and business people, you do it on LinkedIn. The reality, though, is that social networking isn't happening on LinkedIn today. It's not really even happening on Facebook, but it's happening every single day on Twitter. And I love that you brought it up because, like you, it's my go-to. It's my favorite social network.
Constantly scrolling. And that's what's so great is it mixes in, yes, the news. Sometimes it can be depressing. But because it's such a hot spot for so many things, people are always there. So news, entertainment, friends. And so constantly I'll just be scrolling, and then something meaningful will come across. And then, you know, you can build meaningful relationships. So it gets you there for maybe some like superficial things, but then real relationships are born.
So what I love about Twitter is that it's open-ended communication. I can reach out to you, even if we don't follow each other, I can still reach out to you and engage.
When you first reached out, I immediately went to Twitter, and I think you tweeted me or something.
Yeah.
And that's like immediately, it's like, okay, credibility, one. So let's pursue this. So I think it's really important to, you know, you don't have to have the blue check to establish credibility, but just what you say in your short Twitter bio is so important, you know, because it can grab people's attention. What
makes the perfect Twitter bio?
Oh, that is such a good question. I think just understanding who you are in a few words. So for me, the first thing is like YouTuber, podcaster. I want people to know that I have a YouTube channel and that I have a podcast. And then from there, my Twitter feed is very Twitter. So it's not like I'm just posting all of my YouTube video links. You know, Twitter rewards genuine conversation and just words or words with a picture. And I think if you want to get like nitty gritty in terms of engagement, you're going to get so much more engagement if you're posting native to that platform.
Absolutely.
So being funny, being yourself, not tweeting out just external links all the time, but really engaging on the platform and asking questions or just being funny. I mean, I posted the most random tweet the other day about a really skinny building in New York. And because people thought it was so crazy, I mean, the engagement on it was insane.
I know the building that you're talking about too.
Oh my gosh, I think I figured out what it was called, but it looked like it was like 5 square feet. It was crazy.
What I would say comparing Twitter to even like an Instagram is Instagram, naturally, you're gonna get more likes, you're gonna get higher engagement. Than on Twitter, I think a lot of folks are drawn in by the allure of an Instagram, but I also compare the quality of engagement, the quality of follower versus just the quantity.
100%. And I have half the following on Twitter, but I think more meaningful relationships have come from Twitter.
I think a lot of folks out there are using social media nowadays with this spray and pray philosophy where you can just repurpose content from Instagram to Facebook. And like, I hate it. And I want to hear your thoughts on this because people will just share their post on Instagram over to Facebook, and it still has the hashtags. It has like the ... It's not formatted properly.
Brutal. Whenever I see an Instagram come over from Twitter, and
then they do the same thing over on Twitter, so now your text is cut off, and you've got the link that's obviously pointing to Instagram. And what I say all the time is, if you truly want to grow your brand, I want to hear your thoughts on this. If you want to truly grow your brand, you have to grow your brand within the infrastructure 100%. Of the platform. Like, granted, once you get to the level of yourself, myself, and you're creating that brand, people will follow you to the different platforms.
100%.
But in order to keep people hooked in on those platforms and truly pay attention, you have to give them fresh insights, fresh content, and you can't just repurpose the same old.
Yes. I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't know if I need to add anything more, but I kind of do go back to Twitter and Instagram, and it's great to repurpose some stuff, do that micro content, but make sure it is tailored to that platform. On Twitter, there is some virality to it if you get retweets and you're engaging, but Twitter and Facebook are kind of the same, where people don't click into stuff and have the volume turn on. So what does that mean? Captions. It's so annoying to put captions in your video, but it's so huge for that. Especially on Facebook. I mean, no one listens to audio on there, but I would say for Facebook and Twitter, just noticing what works on the platform and how are you engaging with stuff? Are you turning on the volume for every video you watch? If I don't see captions on something, it's almost an immediate scroll. And so I think it's really figuring out, okay, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, how are people engaging with my stuff, and how can you tailor to the specific platforms?
How important would you say it is to poll your audience from time to time? And to stop from creating content and do a Twitter poll and ask your audience, what do you want to see more of? What are you enjoying? You can integrate polls also onto Facebook now.
Definitely.
You can integrate them into your YouTube videos.
I mean, yeah, you can do the little information card and polls. And I think in the YouTube landscape, using polls is a fun way to like get them engaged again, because I think a lot of times people will watch a YouTube video, but be on their phone, and I think engaging your audience all the time is a super important thing. So whether that's a poll or just asking a question, I'll actually give like a hack, a Twitter hack. So whenever I go to, I mean, this assumes that you have a little bit of a following, but assuming that you have that little base of a following, when you're going to a new city, just asking, hey, who are your favorite creatives, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and getting people to tag those people in your tweet. Half the time, those people are gonna go, oh, what was I tagged in? Who is this Sara Dietschy girl? Oh, interesting, we have some things in common. Even if you don't reach out to those people that people tag, you're gonna discover some amazing people through that. But then those people's eyes are now gonna be on you. So whenever I go, say I'm going to London or LA, and I'm trying to find people maybe for my podcast or like a YouTube series, I always go to Twitter and kind of do like my own poll and be like, hey, who's your favorite filmmaker, photographer, entrepreneur lately? And they tag the heck out of people, and then those people see your stuff.
Now, all of a sudden, you appear in those people's news feeds.
Exactly.
Now, like, all right, who's this Sara Dietschy girl?
Yeah.
And she produces amazing content. So let's speak about that. Let's take some steps backward. Because I absolutely love that we just jumped into this and we started spitting fire on like the Twitter, Instagram game. But you have a very strong social media presence. You have over 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. Amazing. Congratulations. You have over 100,000 on Instagram. How have you built your empire on social media?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with what you said in terms of kind of having a back catalog of content. So I posted my first YouTube video in 2011 when I was a junior in high school. I've been doing full-time YouTube for about 3 years now, but a lot of people, when they see someone have a viral video or see, they get an audience of some kind, they think of that person as an overnight success, when in reality, it's not like that. And so 3 years ago, when I made a viral video that basically I was at 4,000 subscribers and I went all the way to 100,000 subscribers in a month with one video. I gained 40,000 subscribers overnight. I was kind of parroting a Casey Neistat vlog. But when when I made that viral video, I had a back catalog of content from the past 4 years of creating the platform that people had a reason to stay on my channel. So they watched my video, oh cool, but when they clicked on my channel, I had a lot of good, unique content on my channel that made them stay. That was highlighting the creative process. It was educational, but it was inspirational as well. And so I think you have to be continually looking for those opportunities to, you know, maybe get that viral hit or just get that searchable content so people are going to find you. But you have to make sure that you're putting in the work and you're being your unique self to where when people discover you, they're going to stay.
So let me break this down because I heard 3 things here. 1, there's no overnight success.
No, no.
We're going to squash that. There's no overnight success.
No.
Like you're not creating 1 or 2 YouTube videos and all of a sudden becoming like the next backpack kid.
Exactly. Well, and I will say, maybe there's overnight sensations, but they don't stay, you know?
Woo!
So if you want
overnight sensation
exactly
versus overnight success.
Yeah, so if you want to have a lasting impact in whatever world you're in, you have to set yourself up for that. So
there's no overnight success. There are overnight sensations.
Yes.
But those aren't necessarily successful sensations. So no overnight success. I also heard on there, you created a video that went viral. The intention perhaps wasn't necessarily, let me create a viral video.
It kind of was.
Okay.
So I will say that I had been doing this before, but not at this scale. So I would be making, I have this theory, my own thing that I say, it's like 1 for me, 1 for them.
Okay.
So I'll make one video that's for me. It's like, it satiates my creative needs, I'm proud of it. But then another one is more for reaching out beyond my audience. You know, maybe it's not the most exciting video, but it's gonna pull new people in. So this was kind of like a 1 for them video. I wasn't like stoked on it, but I was like, you know what, this might grab this person's attention. So I was creating, I had a new season of Creative Spaces TV coming up, which is my docuseries on creative people, how they do their craft and where they do it, kind of in their space. And I had a new season, and I was like, how do I get more eyes on this? And so I made this video the week before I had an entire season queued up. And at the end of the video, I was like, if you enjoyed this video, if you thought it was funny, tweet it at Casey Neistat, you know? And I was very intentional with it. So at the time, 300 people were viewing my video, but if you think about it, 300 people, that's a lot.
That's a lot of people.
That's so many people.
Absolutely.
And if you have 300 engaged fans,
yes.
That's huge. That's so big. And so those 300 people came through and grabbed his attention. And I didn't expect the scale of that, but I did anticipate, you know, hopefully I got some people outside of my audience.
So I absolutely love that because you decided to leverage your community and essentially growth hack in order to get to Casey Neistat, which is just brilliant. I think a lot of content creators out there today are overthinking the process of content creation.
Totally.
They're overthinking, I need to have an audience. I need to have the nice equipment.
And you can't just be that side of it. You can't just be like viral videos, viral videos. Like, you have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to be unique in whatever field you're in. When I started making videos 5 to 6 years ago, sharing the creative process wasn't as a widely accepted concept. People kind of wanted to hold on to their secrets. But as I was learning everything, I was just telling the internet. And so that was kind of my unique perspective. It's more popular now.
Yeah, like I think what happens is, you know, people are afraid necessarily to give up their IP, but people aren't necessarily opting in just for your IP. They're opting in for you.
Definitely.
Like, there's only one you out there. And that's why people are opting in to see your content and to want to have access to you more so than the IP, because the IP exists. You go on Google, there's a lot of content out there, how to grow your YouTube channel, how to grow your social media presence.
You gotta be you, you be you.
The third thing I heard though is consistency though.
Yes.
So you created, what, 400 videos?
Oh yeah, I think I have 400 videos now.
So
maybe
the
even
consistency is what's gotten you to this point. Whereas a lot of folks, once again, they create 1 or 2, it doesn't get a lot of views.
You can't give up.
No, you can't.
You know, you can't like put out 1 or 2 videos and be like, well, I guess people don't like me. And I think that's why it's so important to do something you're passionate about, because, I mean, that's so cliche. But if you're not passionate about it, you're not gonna stick with it.
So like, what does passion mean to you?
Yeah, passion means when I was up till 2 a.m. doing electrical engineering homework in college, that I was still gonna stay up 2 hours past that to make a video. And ultimately led me to dropping out of college to pursue this video thing, and it worked out, thank goodness. But I just had to do it. Like when you have that gut feeling and you love what you're doing and you're gonna stay up late, you know, I'm not vouching for don't sleep. I don't like the don't sleep culture, but sometimes you have to do what you gotta do. And in college, when I was up late with engineering homework, I knew that video was what I wanted to do because what I was doing that I hated really pushed me into what I love. So sometimes you just got to go out there and grind. You know, just get a job, and then you'll find what you really like to do when you only have like a precious 3 hours to do it at the end of the day.
Now, you've mentioned before that you do YouTube full time.
Yeah.
Implying this is your job or it's a part of your business?
Yeah, so
make money from it.
Exactly. YouTube has been my job for the past 3 years now, and you know, I've been able to.
What does that mean? Like, let's break that minutia down for someone out there that's not a part of this creator culture. When you say YouTube is your job, what is that?
Yeah. So there's different streams of revenue, right? You can have Google AdSense. Google runs ads before your videos, and so usually people will get more AdSense if they have more traffic. There's merch and merchandising, online products, and then there's working with brands. And so I do a mixture of all of those, but I'm pretty heavy in the side of working with brands because I've been able to curate this this really cool, just creative audience where they want to live their best creative life and they want to learn along the way and truly create. You know, it's really cool. And so being able to connect with creative brands that align with that is so exciting for me because it allows me to continue doing what I'm doing, creating what I'm creating, but then they can come alongside me and you know, share their message as well, which is very similar. So when you're in, like, thank goodness I'm in tech and creativity because traditionally those are going to be the companies with the money, right? So if you have a successful knitting YouTube channel, you're going to have to really pull in those views for some Google AdSense because there's not a lot of big knitting companies that are going to shell out the brand deal.
Take notes from
yeah.
Sara Dietschy. Yeah. Tech companies are also buyers of access to views.
Yes.
And who's providing the views? It's you.
Exactly. So it depends the niche that you're in. That's how you're going to evaluate how you want to monetize. Maybe it's digital products. Maybe it is creating a clothing line. So it depends what you're into, and then you can kind of assess from there, from all the different streams of revenue. What do you think is best for you? Affiliate links, you know. So
where's some of the brands that you work with?
Yeah, I'm a big partner with Intel, Adobe, LaCie. So all of those people are really about embracing creatives and helping them live their best creative life, and that's what my brand is about. And so it's really cool when you find brands that can align with your vision. So.
Now, we've talked about YouTube. Let's move over to Instagram now.
Yes.
You also have a strong Instagram presence. Would you say a lot of that has been fueled by your presence over on YouTube?
Definitely.
Or is that also a mix of
trying
new things?
It's a mix, but when you are a YouTuber, it's very unique because, like you said, yes, people come for whatever your niche is, but at the same time, they want to know you. It's a very personal platform. And so with YouTubers, really the following trickles over to a lot of different social media. And Instagram is one of those that really organically people find you. And if they're like, oh, I've watched one of her videos, and they find me in the Explore feed, it's very easy to connect on there. And so things like they've added Instagram stories. The moment Instagram added stories, I dropped Snapchat like that.
Same.
Because Snapchat, it doesn't have that discoverability.
Correct.
And Instagram, it's just endless, you know. It really is, with the Explore page and Instagram stories and how they're serving up IGTV now. And so I truly think that Instagram is like not equal to YouTube, but it's right there, you know. And
but I have a question though, if I can interject. Like, how do you balance portraying your best life on Instagram with some of the struggles that you face in your everyday life that you might not necessarily want to put on Instagram because it's not as appealing?
That, you know, they've separated that very well with Instagram stories. So Instagram feed, that's like, hey, look at these beautiful pictures, you know, we're out here living our best life. But Instagram stories is that, like, no makeup on, it's 2 a.m., I'm editing. So it's cool that you can balance kind of both of those realities. And I think that platform does a really good job of that because, you know, on the feed, it looks everything's perfect. Oh, look, New York City,
crispy.
it's so great.
It's good.
But yeah, tune into the stories, and that's where you get the real and the raw.
So like the real goes down on stories.
100%.
The finished produced product goes over on Instagram.
And that's what people want to see on stories. I mean, if you get too graphics heavy on stories, it's like swipe out, you know? So
now let's talk about podcasting. You were telling me off camera you have a podcast as well?
Yes, I do. So I have a podcast. It's basically interviewing YouTube creators, CEOs. My first podcast was with Gary Vaynerchuk. And so just kind of deconstructing how artists can make a living, because it is kind of the wild, wild west out there. But not just getting perspectives from YouTubers, but really practitioners that have built businesses. Because something that I'm discovering is you can't just be the artist 24/7. If you want to build a successful business, you have to understand process. You have to understand how to be the vision caster, not just the technician who's always just like in the computer. So I've been able to talk to some really cool people who understand that and give people real handles on how to live their best creative life. You know?
So let's talk about how do you actually create one versus the other. So YouTube, it's all about what you see right here. It's all about your face, the visual aesthetics. Audio, though, is a different game.
100%.
Because people aren't seeing you,
Yes.
but they have to feel the energy that, you know, if you have energy, so like if you're like myself, I speak loud, I'm energetic, you can pick that up. Like, how do you try to stand out through your content on podcasting, specifically being voice and audio versus video?
Definitely. So with the podcast, I try, YouTube is very much so about my perspective. What tech am I using and how does it integrate into my life? And hopefully that's applicable to other people. And I do interject a lot of my personality, I make it fun. But in podcasting realm, I do try to make it more about the guest. But tie in, like, how is this important to people who might want to be YouTubers, who might want to be, you know, build a business one day. So I really have to be intentional with, yes, let's insert my fun, bubbly personality, you know, let's be sarcastic, let's be fun, but at the same time, kind of take a step back and let someone else talk, which I know, you know, these YouTubers who are getting into podcasting, it's hard to let someone else talk, you know? And so that's something that I've been practicing and researching, you know, the more you know about someone, the deeper you can go.
You hit the nail on the head, like 100%. So I'm used to doing this in reverse, where it's like someone interviews me, and I've had to learn as a show host, it's not about myself, it's about the guest, and you have to get the most out of your guest in the time that you have with them, whereas in reverse, in the limited time, if it's a 10-minute video you're doing on YouTube, you have to just give people knowledge, keep them engaged,
and that's what's so exciting about podcasts. You know, I sit down for an hour with someone, and you really get to dive deep. And so I think that's where you really get to go into the specifics. And I've heard so much feedback just from my podcast, from my audience, in terms of like, wow, this helped me to grow this, you know, really practical stuff. And I think that's where that long form content can really help people. Now, and you can listen to it in your car.
Now I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yes.
And I just want you to know that in the next segment, we're gonna have the founder of Anchor joining me here on the set. So content creator comes to you and says, you know what, I want to get in the game. I'm shy. I don't have a camera presence. I'm thinking about podcasting, but I only have time for one.
Oh, like one podcast?
You only have time for one medium. Like you're either
one medium.
You're either doing a podcast or you're doing YouTube videos.
Definitely. It depends if you're more visual or if you think more of the research side suits you, or interviewing people. I think YouTube has that aspect of searchable content. So if you're knowledgeable at things and people want to know, oh, what's the best latest camera gear, or, you know, I use this knitting example all the time, but like niching down has its benefits. And so if you are really into knitting and there's not someone owning that game, people are going to be searching that. So I would say if something is searchable, if what you're in is searchable, hands down YouTube. Find a partner if you're not into video stuff. But in terms of podcasts, I think it's still like up and coming, right? I mean, so many people are making podcasts, but it's such a bigger commitment. So you really have to have a unique perspective. And if you don't already have the numbers, you can't just go, okay, I'm gonna just interview people. Luckily, I started out on my YouTube channel interviewing creative people, and that's kind of been my niche this entire time. So, and I already had the audience, so I think I was able to really pursue that. But how can you make your podcast unique? Gimlet Media is such a good example of a company who's come in on the content side of podcasts and made really, really unique stuff. And I think there's so much innovation to happen on the podcast side of stuff. So if you can tell a compelling story in audio and do it in a unique way, do that.
You see, I want to give you my perspective, if I may. And it's funny because we're doing this in the form of video, and there's a story to be told. And you know, I've got my camera guys, and we're recording a vlog on the back end. However, I actually tell creators as they're getting started, and I'm not talking about like content creators, I'm talking about professionals in an industry like real estate. If you want to stand out from your peers, podcasting is a competitive advantage. There's a lot of oversaturation in visual content creation already. I think we can agree on, you go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, it's everywhere. But tell me the real estate agent that's talking about home buying tips, using Anchor.
Ryan, where's your podcast? Ryan Serhant, come on, dude.
Yeah, like I had Ryan on the show previously. He's a great example of he's creating visual content to promote his brand, and it works for him.
And he's doing it so well.
But for like the average person out there that is, i.e. camera shy, overthinking the process, like I tell these real estate agents, heck, you can use your iPhone, and while you're at an open house, you can talk about that open house, or you can talk about what you have to do to obtain a mortgage nowadays. You can talk about your community. I was in the car on the way here, and my Uber driver was telling me that him and his ex-wife do a podcast together. And I was like, this is fabulous. Like, you're a cab driver. You're meeting people all day. You're hearing people's stories. You can use that as content. And like the number one thing I hear from people is they're just shy and they don't want to show their face.
There has to be a reason, though. I think a lot of people.
A reason for what?
What story? I think a lot of people kind of passively get into podcasting and expect people to listen to them for an hour. I mean, that's a very bold thing to ask people to do. Is like, hey, I want you to listen to me for an hour. And so I think there really has to be a value exchange there. So 100%, if you're shy, it might be the right medium, but it's like, what are you offering that's unique?
What's harder to get to that point? A listen, a view, or a like?
Ooh. For some reason, I still think a listen is hard, because with podcasts, there's not that much of the discoverability aspect of it right now. So people who already have an audience are the ones crushing it on podcasts right now. It's kind of one of those things like, I have an existing audience. Hey guys, listen to this. But with YouTube, you could make a searchable piece of content and get hundreds, thousands of views like that. So you be you, have that self-awareness, is video something you can do? Is audio something you can do? But podcasting, it's harder to grow.
What are your thoughts on repurposing a podcast as a YouTube or Facebook video?
Huge. And that's back to my point. I think if you can record your podcast but also have a video element to it, I think that is so, so huge. Right now with mine, starting a clips channel. If you watch H3H3's podcast, Joe Rogan, I mean, all of these guys.
Love the Joe Rogan.
So good, so good. All these guys are putting out their podcasts in video format, long form, but a lot of times their 4-minute clips are gonna pop off more than their actual full episode. And so that's something that I'm working on now too, is having a dedicated YouTube channel and really breaking up clips.
Work for the views.
100%. And you have to kind of go beyond, the Apple Podcast platform to promote your stuff. So work with that searchability with YouTube. I mean, if you're talking about a compelling subject, it's topical, and you have a thumbnail and title that is on the nose, and people click on it and they get the thumbnail title, they're gonna stay and watch it.
I love it. Sarah, what do you do from here? Like, what's next for you?
What's next?
What's on the horizon? Big stretch goals for 2019. What do you want to do?
2019 would be I'm calling it like my year of delegation. So in the past, I've been churning out videos for like 5 years now where it's just me. And it's like my ego and it's my videos and I'm so proud of them. But I've been very scared to let go of some of the process. So 2019 is just me expanding. So hopefully I can get, I'm getting some help with my YouTube videos in terms of filming and editing. It's that next step to where I can focus more on my podcast and expanding that into something as big as my YouTube channel.
So you're saying like you're to this point, you've created this great brand, but now if you want to take it to the next level, you have to start hiring some key personnel that can take on some of the heavy lifting.
It's time to set that ego aside. A lot of creators, like, only I can do what I can do. And you know what, that is true. That's what, I think gets people to that certain level. But if you want to grow, you got to build. And so I think that's what's next for me.
I love it.
So yeah, YouTube channel, podcast. And I'm actually rebranding my podcast. I'm changing the name.
Isn't that exclusive crazy? Right here?
Yeah, this is an exclusive. So,
drop it.
And this is a branding mistake on my part, is I had a YouTube show called That Creative Life and a podcast called The Creative Exchange. So confusing, sound exactly alike, right? But I don't make my YouTube series anymore titled That Creative Life, and people really resonated with that as a title. I put it on merch, so that's gonna be my podcast now, is That Creative Life, because we're over here trying to get people to live their best That Creative Life.
Woo, that's fire.
Yeah, so 2019, we got some good episodes coming up, some pretty big people, so yeah, very excited. So YouTubers like Damon and Joe, so they're big travel YouTubers, hopefully getting more into the tech sphere. I've already interviewed Jonathan Morrison and Austin Evans, and so really diving more into the YouTube world, but you're also going to get some good conversations from some business people too. So have to stay tuned. 2019, yes.
Sara, you've been phenomenal. Where can the viewers out there learn more about you, and how can they connect with you?
100%. So connecting with me, say what's up on Instagram and Twitter, just at Sara Dietschy. Sara Dietschy on YouTube, but hey, just Google Sara Peachy and you'll find me. Ooh, I got that SEO going,
Sara Peachy.
Yes.
Not Dietschy, but Peachy.
Dietschy is very hard to spell, so just Google me.
Sara, fist bumps.
Yes.
You've been great. Thank you so much for coming here onto Real Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Our next guest is the founder of Anchor, which is a podcasting platform. We talked about podcasting on this segment, and I guarantee you, you don't want to miss what he has to say on the next. Welcome back to Real Talk. I'm your host, Carlos Gil. My next guest founded the world's largest podcasting platform. His name is Michael Mignano, and his company is none other than Anchor. Mike, welcome to the set of Real Talk.
Thanks, Carlos. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here. Anchor. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
You have created the world's largest podcasting platform. We just had Sara Dietschy here on the set. She was talking about her podcast, tips for podcasters. Podcasting has become just this phenomenon.
Sure.
And your company makes it easy to just record a podcast from your iPhone.
Yeah, or from anywhere. Basically Anchor is a one-stop shop for making a podcast. We've got everything from recording tools, editing tools, tools for hosting, distribution, and now we're starting to get involved with monetization as well. All in one place, all for free, easy enough for literally anyone to use, but also powerful enough for a professional as well.
What was your motivation behind starting Anchor?
Yeah.
Maybe take it a step back. Like, what were you doing before you started this amazing tech startup?
Sure. So my co-founder, Nir, and I, both good friends, both worked together at a company called Aviary and then Adobe, and both became obsessed with podcasts. We, like many other people, just sort of fell in love with the medium. We were both listening to a lot of podcasts, talking about them. I had tried to start my own, and we found that it was really difficult. It was really, really hard to get a podcast up and running. I don't know if you've tried to do it before, but you need the expensive microphone, you need to know about audio editing, you need to figure out where to upload this thing and host it, and you have to pay to host it, and then you have to get it distributed with RSS. And so it was just a really, really big technical process, and Nir and I both felt, well, there has to be an easier way, right? And so we got to work nights and weekends, nonstop coding and designing and building. The first version of the product was a little more of a social platform. It was short form audio, it was in a feed, but over time, podcasts just became more and more popular and the product evolved more and more into what it is today. It's a complete podcasting solution for everyone.
I learned about Anchor through Gary Vee.
Oh, cool.
Right? Like,
that's great.
Yeah, it seemed like it was like when the platform first dropped and everyone was just flooding the market on Anchor, creating their short little podcast, sharing with the world like what was going on, and then tweeting it out.
Yeah.
And it was cool because you'd have the integration with Twitter, you have the emoji, and I still see it. Like I see, people that are sharing out like their Anchor content. Like, so what I love about it is you're tapping into already existing platforms and you're providing a solution to make it easier to not only create content, but to distribute it as well.
Sure. Yeah, distribution is huge, right? If you're just starting out in any medium, whether it's video or photos or audio through podcasts, you want to be heard. And the key to being heard, especially when you're just starting, is being everywhere. And so that's something that we make really, really easy. So when you create your podcast with Anchor and you distribute it, you tap that distribution button and we get to work putting you everywhere. We put you on Apple Podcasts, we put you on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, basically everywhere people are listening to podcasts. We're actually now starting to distribute to some non-traditional platforms for podcasts. For example, a few weeks ago, we announced a partnership with Flipboard. So we're putting podcasts on Flipboard. And yeah, it's really all about making it easy for you to build a listener base.
How important is voice marketing in this era that we're in now? So we just had Sarah talking about YouTube and visual content creation, and you have vlogging, but audio.
Sure.
Like I have a soft spot in my heart for audio. I've actually hosted a couple of podcasts before. I'm on the move a lot on airplanes, so I'm listening to audio. Like I connect a lot more personally with people's voice than I do when I see the aesthetics a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think audio is a super compelling, intimate format, right? It is something that has been working for like 100 years, right? Radio's been around for a long time. And it is a really, really compelling medium. And that's why I think as a marketing channel, it's proven to be one of the most successful or potentially the most successful form of marketing in terms of conversion. And that's because it is so authentic, right? You literally, especially if you think about it, you're on the plane, you've got your headphones on, you literally have someone's voice talking into your ear. And so a connection is made between you and the host. And so when they have a message or a product suggestion or endorsement, you listen. You're immersed in the content, you listen. And so yeah, it has been found to be really, really effective. Here in the US, it's still a relatively small market. It's a couple 100 million, but it's literally expected to double by 2020. And that just gives you some indication as to how fast it's growing.
So a couple of 100 million consumers, if you will, of podcasts.
Sorry, a couple $100 million, the market. Okay. The market is roughly around $300 million in the US, but it's growing so quickly that it's going to double by 2020.
In terms of the competition amongst creators, like can you speak to any of the metrics in terms of like core users on your platform or in the space?
Yeah, so Anchor is now powering 40% of all new podcasts. Still a relatively small ecosystem. Apple has publicly stated that they have about 550,000 podcasts in their overall catalog. So still relatively small when you think of it in comparison to something like YouTube and how many billions of videos there must be on YouTube. I don't know how many, but it has to be in the billions, right? Or how many photos on Instagram. Podcasts are still tiny, but it's growing so rapidly, and I really think that that's due to how popular the medium has become to consume, right? So many people are listening to podcasts now. You see everyone here in New York on the subway with their headphones in the car. So many cars are connected now, right, to your phone or connected directly to the internet. So it's really easy to get digital content on the go. And I think that's why podcasts have exploded so much in the past couple of years.
So to restate what you had said before, I love the solution because it's an end-to-end platform where you can do everything within the framework of Anchor.
Yes.
So for someone that's just getting started, that doesn't necessarily have the fancy equipment and doesn't have like that vision for creating a podcast, but they want to get started in the game, like how simple is it for them to use Anchor?
It's totally simple. Literally all you have to do is download the Anchor app. So go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and search for Anchor, or go to our website, anchor.fm. And on all three of those experiences, you sign up for an account in a couple of seconds. You can be recording, seconds later, whether it's on your phone or on your desktop. And then once you're done with your episode, we walk you through the process. We get you set up with really nice cover art. We actually have a partnership with Unsplash. They've got some of the most beautiful stock photography in the world. So we let you get set up with a great photo. We help you create text for it. And then once you're ready to distribute, we get to work distributing it, and you're up on some of these platforms I mentioned within minutes. You could literally be with, if we wanted to right now, we could download Anchor, record something, and be up on Spotify or some of the other platforms by the time this interview's over.
Now, for video creators like myself,
Yeah.
in theory, I could take this video interview and I can repurpose it over on Anchor. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't want to record with our tools, let's say you're stripping audio out of a YouTube video, or maybe you produce your audio elsewhere in something like Pro Tools or GarageBand, we also give you tools to upload that audio into the platform without having to record through the app.
Now, one of the things that Sarah mentioned in the previous interview is repurposing.
Yeah.
Podcast audio as video. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's cool, and we're seeing people doing it. We actually have been getting requests from YouTubers who would love to be able to take their Anchor content and with a tap of a button, push it over to YouTube. So that's actually something we're exploring right now because there absolutely is demand for it.
Now, you mentioned the YouTubers. Are there any content creators in particular that you want them to come over on your app because you know that they're going to bring a following with them, or is it more about the quality content that you're producing?
I mean, we're an open platform. We want to be the platform that enables anyone and everyone to make a podcast, right? Our mission's to democratize audio, and so that means making it possible for anyone to do this. So, we like to help out all different levels of creators, from beginners all the way up to the pros. We certainly have beginners. We also have some amazing creators, in fact, YouTubers. Casey Neistat as a creator on the platform. We've got some of my favorites. Pat McAfee, who's a former kicker in the NFL, has a great podcast on Anchor. Cameron Kasky, the activist and Parkland High student who founded March for Our Lives, just launched a podcast on Anchor a few weeks ago. So we've got all sorts of creators, amazing creators, putting out content some of which is reaching the top of the charts. It's just been incredible.
What would your advice be for someone just getting started in the game?
Yeah.
Of podcasting?
I would say, obviously, when you're going to build and create a piece of content and you put it out there on the internet, you want it to be of high quality, you want it to be great, but don't overthink it, right? Okay. When you want to get started doing something, especially a podcast, I think best thing you could do is put yourself out there, get feedback, learn, and iterate, right? Don't get too trapped in your own head trying to perfect something before you get any feedback. Just get it out there and be consistent, and you'll learn and you'll improve over time.
Now, where do you see, on the flip side of that, where do you see people struggle or fail?
I think, like all forms of content, I think the consistent content schedule is key. I don't know if you would agree with that. Whatever you're doing, if you're writing a blog, if you're doing a YouTube channel, you've got to be consistent, right? Consistency builds an audience. And I think for someone who hasn't done that before, the first time you go to do that, you're like, oh, wow, I have to make a piece of content every week or every day or whatever your schedule is. I think that can be jarring for people who have never done it before, but it's so critical that you stay consistent so your audience knows what to expect.
For me, I think it's an art form, right? So doing this is a form of content creation that's an art. Having a dialogue, a conversation going when you have cameras and lights in front of you. For me, when I started a podcast in 2015, I had never interviewed someone before. I'd never had a dialogue over Skype with a microphone in front of me speaking to them about business questions. And I think that for most people that get started, it's a little nerve-wracking. You have people in front of you that are highly successful, and you kind of want to impress them at the same time. And I think numbers have a big deal to do with that. If you're not getting a big number of downloads, but yet, I follow John Lee Dumas, right? Good friend of mine also. So, he's a guy that has one of the top podcasts in the business realm, right? So if you're just getting started and you're not seeing that incremental growth, it can be a little demotivating.
Sure. Yeah, I think again, stick with it. I think authenticity is really important. I think, again, with any content format, it's important to be yourself, and I think podcasting in particular really lends itself to that because it's just a conversation, right? You and I right now, we're just having a conversation. This conversation would be exactly the same if the cameras weren't on. And I think people should think about podcasting in the same way. You don't have to put on a show. You don't have to overthink it. We all know how to talk and listen and have interesting conversations. Just turn on the mic and talk to whoever's in front of you.
So you're a successful tech founder now. What are some of the challenges that you face? And you're looking at me all right, he says I'm a successful tech founder. Would you consider yourself successful by your own definition?
Anchor's mission is to democratize audio, and my co-founder and I have both, and the entire Anchor team has really taken that on and sort of adopted it as their own. And so when I think about success, I think about achieving that mission. try not to think too much about it otherwise. Just keep moving forward and keep going after our North Star, again, which is democratizing audio. So that's the way I think about it.
What's next for you, and more importantly, what's next for Anchor?
Yeah, so if you think about the past year of Anchor, it's really been about lowering the barrier to creation and making it possible for anyone and everyone who wants to make a podcast to make a podcast. Moving forward, we really want to make it possible for those people to start generating revenue for themselves. So, we've always felt that, podcasting, even though we've made it easy to do, it's still hard work, right? To have that conversation every week or every day or whatever your cadence is. And if you are developing a listenership, you should be getting paid for it, right? Because it is valuable to somebody. And so our new project is Anchor Sponsorships. And that is a platform that automatically matches a podcast up with a brand that wants to sponsor it, gives them a host-read ad script that they can read, and makes it really easy for them to capture that read and get it out to their podcast wherever it's being distributed. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And when that podcast gets heard, that sponsor pays them directly. So it's a really, really easy way for anyone to start monetizing their podcast, which has been a big hurdle for the medium. Up until this point, roughly only 1% of podcasts have been monetized through advertisements. We really hope to grow that number significantly with Anchor sponsorships.
And this sounds amazing because, again, platforms like YouTube create an incentive for you to create on YouTube. Now you're creating an incentive to really have a presence on Anchor, have a podcast, and you're making it easier for anyone out there to monetize. So for any creator that wants to get started with your advertising platform, where do they go?
Just go to anchor.fm or download the app in the App Store or the Google Play Store and search for Anchor. And as soon as you create your first episode, you'll have an opportunity right there to turn on sponsorships. And it just makes it easy. Like I said, monetization has been a big hurdle for creators. You generally need about 50,000 downloads in the industry today to attract the attention of an advertiser. And once you do, there's this really long manual process of negotiating a deal and going back and forth. The whole thing is a pain, and sponsorships really boils down that entire process right into something as simple as an app. So,
and now you're becoming the bridge to make that happen.
Anchor's becoming the bridge to make that happen. That's right.
Excellent. Mike, where can the viewers out there connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, sure. So I would encourage everyone to check out Anchor. Search for us in the App Store or the Google Play Store, or go to anchor.fm. On social, we're just at Anchor. And if you want to get in touch with me on social, I am at Mignano.
At Mignano. This bumped it up. You know what? You just convinced me to go ahead and dive back into podcasting.
Love it. Love it.
So, like they say in showbiz, you got to stay tuned. I'm going to jump back on Anchor and start using it.
Great.
Maybe we'll repurpose some of this real talk content on the platform and see what happens.
Cool.
So,
looking forward to it.
Thank you so much
for
joining me here on the set. And thank you to our viewers out there for watching another episode of Real Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up, like, comment, and share. You know what to do if you're watching on Facebook, watch. Or if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And we'll see you next time